Humans at the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are talking about Lair of Darkness. I do not get to talk about this deck as much as I wish I could, because usually we get some support and then we don't get anything for a while, but Konami kind of popping off with the support lately. Alice in at the beginning of the year, and now we've got stuff as far as, like, I've literally have 4 things on the list today that we're going to cover as far as things that legitimately make Lair of Darkness better, and I'm very excited for it. This is one of, if not my favorite deck of all time, if you guys don't know, if you're newer to the channel. But yeah, I'm really excited to mess around with a bunch of different builds, especially when these new cards do finally release. So 4 things we're covering there. Before we get into those, though, just want to mention, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. And you want to see more discussion videos like this, news videos whenever new stuff drops, as well as deck profiles, combo videos, and more. And also follow me on Twitter. Just got a new Twitter. I'm having a great time posting there. So if you want to see not just Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, but just life stuff on there from me, follow me on Twitter. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, let's get into this thing. Lair of Darkness, one of my favorite decks. You know, you got Lilith, your main monster. You got Diablos, your boss monster. You got Lair. And then this deck just plays so well and gets you any normal trap card in the game. So the first thing... Oh, also don't forget Tour Guide. We'll come back to this, though. The first thing I need to mention is Tactical Masters. This set is coming out at the later half of August. So we're about, I don't know, maybe a little under a month and a half away from this. Which is fine. We'll have Power of the Elements in between, so we're not going too long without a set. But when this drops specifically for Lair, we do have Labyrinth, and in Labyrinth we have a handful of monsters that are really interesting. You've got stuff like Ariana. This card searches you any of their Labyrinth cards. That could be monsters, that could be spell traps, anything, which is really good. And then it also has like a float effect. From there, you also have their boss monster, Lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle. They have a trap card that summons this straight out of the deck, and this offers you extra removal and the ability to get follow-up. Really good. Welcome Labyrinth Insane. This just summons any Labyrinth monster straight from the deck. That could be your boss monster. That could be something like Ariana for a search on the opponent's turn for follow-up. This card's great. And then they also have a new card in like Archfiend Glitch, where if you control a fiend, pop a card, then Foolish Burial a fiend. So kind of like Fiend Griefing, but I think the interruption is just generically going to be more valuable. But of course you do have to have a fiend on the field. But still a really good card nonetheless. This could be an easy addition to the Lair of Darkness deck, potentially. So yeah, like a bunch of cool options there. I'm not exactly sure where the build goes from here. I'm not sure if it's going to be more correct to play a more Labyrinth build that has a little bit of Lair of Darkness stuff in it, or vice versa. Mostly Lair of Darkness stuff with a little bit of Labyrinth stuff in it. I don't know where I want to go with it yet, but I do think regardless, even if I choose not to play a ton of Labyrinth stuff, like maybe Archfiend Glitch just makes the cut because it's a Foolish plus a Dryden at the same time. Like maybe we just play the trap card with, you know, the Lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle or something. And I've messed around with like Ties of the Brethren builds where you play a small level 4 package. Maybe we splash in Ariana because she can just search you the trap, and then you set the trap, and then boom, you're getting the Silver Castle straight out of the deck, right? So there's a couple of good options there. I don't know exactly which route is going to be correct to go, but I do think it is very worth noting, because when you put these archetypes side by side and just throw out bullet points to describe them, you're like, Lair of Darkness, like a dark fiend deck that has cute girls in it, a boss monster that's pretty good, a field spell that's pretty good, and then it's based around normal traps. And then you describe Labyrinth, and you're like, okay, dark fiends, cute girls in the archetype, good boss monster, good field spell, and based around normal traps. You can describe them almost the exact same, so they just have a plenty of really good synergies, so they work pretty well together. So that's the first thing. Don't forget, the end of August is when that is set to debut. And then everything else we're talking about in this video is set for Darkwing Blast. This is coming out in the latter half of October. So we're more a couple months away from this one. I mean, it's honestly not that far. It's honestly like, what is that? It's like not even 3.5 months. So it's not even that bad already. But yeah, the first thing here, I guess the second thing to mention, but the first one in Darkwing Blast, is Bisted. This archetype is really cool. Shout out to Lithium. If you want to get a quick preview on a potential build here, watch Lithium's channel. He has a video on LAIR Bisted. It's a really cool build, and it's just really good. These monsters are insane. They're all like pseudo DD Crows. They can banish stuff from your opponent's graveyard to summon themselves, but it just has to be a light or a dark. But that's actually quite easy for a lot of decks to set up for you, so that's not a huge problem. Plus, you're going to be playing a deck that's mostly dark anyway, so you can set it up yourself regardless. But these cards just offer so much board presence, pressure, as well as like the ability to like make a Lair of Darkness way better going second, and that's definitely going to be one thing to look at. But these cards offer insane value. It's like I said, the pseudo DD Crow plus a 2500 body, and then some other bonus effect like Magnamoot, searching any dragon monster on end phase. So that can just straight up search you Darkest Diablos, right? That's obviously insane. As well as any other dragon, like from the Bisted engine, right? And then the other ones are really good as well. One of them's removal, one of them gives you an extra Foolish Burial for a Bisted card. You also have Lubellion, great starter, great card to get you into that Bisted engine. And also tributes a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon that can also tribute Diablos if you want. Or if you play against a deck that plays dragons, you can tribute your opponent's stuff while Lair's on the field. There's actually some really cool synergies in here. And I think one of the biggest things is that Lair's always been looking for like an assisting engine. But the problem was, Lair really needs your normal summon. You really want a normal like Tour Guide or like Lilith most of the time. And so an assisting engine would not need to take your normal summon and be able to like apply pressure and give you an alternative win condition apart from just the Lair stuff, because I've lost plenty of duels where I just couldn't draw Lilith or anything, and my hand was like just traps. And then once my opponent eventually plays through all my traps, I hold them off for a turn or two. If I never draw into a way to like actually get to my engine, I just run out of steam, and then they just eventually get something going and run me out of the duel. So having a secondary engine that can be its own win condition and just win duels on its own is very, very welcome to the strategy. And when you see them both together, even better. So really, really cool. Really, really like this engine. Mostly excited to try it out in Lair. Not a ton of places outside of that I'm excited personally to try it, but it'll be good. This will be a meta relevant like archetype for sure. Number 3 on the list is another Labyrinth card. This is the first wave of legacy support for Labyrinth. I don't even know if you call it legacy support if it's in like the very next set, but whatever. Like the next wave, it's not part of that initial wave. It's coming in Darkwing Blast, 2 months later. But this card is awesome, so good. So if it's in your hand, the turn any Labyrinth card or a normal trap has been activated, it doesn't even have to trigger. It's not even a trigger effect. It's just once, like in a turn that either of those things have happened, this card can just quick effect summon itself. So on the opponent's turn even, just plop itself out. It is a huge body. 3,000 attack, 2,900 defense, huge. As long as you control a set card, this card cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, so it's just annoying as shit to get off the field. And lastly, when any normal trap is activated, yours or your opponent's, you can just set any normal trap with a different name directly from your deck. That is so broken. It searches any normal trap in the game. I think this is great. Now, obviously, this card is just a little bit better, has a little bit more synergy in Labyrinth Pure, like an actual Labyrinth deck. But it also has some bonus synergies in Lair. The fact that Arima can search this if it tributes something else. The fact that Doomdog Octhros is a card I used to play when Grinder Golem was still around, but we haven't had a great level 8 Fiend target really to search up until now. This card could literally supplement there and make Octhros actually playable, as well as the fact that like this deck is like plays almost exactly like Labyrinth. You might even play a couple of Labyrinth cards in your deck just because that engine is sweet and it makes this card even a little more accessible. It's really, really good. I think this card is awesome. I think I might try to just play one copy of this no matter what. It's one of those cards where like, yes, we have multiple ways to search it. If you hard draw it though, it is not a brick like the other one is. That's the big downside of the lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle is she's just a brick. She doesn't summon herself. You draw her, it isn't ideal. You can draw her. As long as you set back row, she can come down as a boss monster and apply a ton of pressure to your opponent and give you follow-up every turn. Insanely strong. I like this card a lot. Cannot wait to mess around with it. I think this card could make Labyrinth and other like Trap Fiend decks like legitimately like playable. Like legit rogue level where you see it more and more. So that's number 3. We get to the final card here we're going to talk about today. This is News Reporter from the Underworld. This card is, as far as a single card goes, this may be the single most impactful card we have for Lair of Darkness here. News Reporter from the Underworld. She's part of the tour guide. That's why I mentioned tour guide. We're going to talk about her here. Here we go. Pretty much, long story short, this is what this is. It's a completely generic monsters. Other than that, it just needs effect monsters. It's almost completely generic. Can't be used as material deterrence link summon. That's the only downside of it. Other than that, it pretty much says discard a card from your hand to target a fiend monster in grave, reborn it. Does not negate the monster's effects that you summon. Does not have a level restriction. So if you had something like Labyrinth, a Lady of the Labyrinth, you can just reborn it. That's like a 3,000 body that's going to have protection, and you can just summon it for free. So easy. Basically what this does in particular, in my opinion, is it makes Tour Guide actually not just playable, but a legit good starter in Lair of Darkness again, which it didn't do for so long. And just talking about, I could go deeper on this card and how it applies to just fiends in general, but just keeping it simple for today and just talking about Lair, Tour Guide now can go Tour Guide. So, Tour Guide never got you to Lilith with its effects live, but now you go Tour Guide, summon Lilith straight out of the deck. Then you link them off for this card. So you go Tour Guide, summon Lilith. Link them off for her. This is Tour Guide plus any discard. Discard a card and reborn the Lilith. That's basically it. But then from there, Lilith can tribute the News Reporter to get you a trap because its effects aren't negated. So you tribute her to get a trap. Then you just have Lilith plus a trap. Also keep in mind, Lilith was special summoned, so she will be 2,000 attack, not 1,000 like she normally is. There. So Tour Guide plus any other card in hand gets you Lilith still on field with 2,000 attack and any normal trap in the game. That is really solid value. I know it's not technically a plus, but it is a solid setup. It adds to consistency. It adds to being able to get to your engine and maintain monster presence, which has been one of the biggest problems for me when I have played Lair, and I love that. It just makes Tour Guide way better. It was a really mediocre normal summon for the longest time. You always wanted to see Lilith, but not Tour Guide usually. And sometimes it was just a follow-up or just to make stuff like Ties of the Brethren more consistent. And now it does that, but also singularly as just a card by itself. Tour Guide offers you so much more consistent value than it used to. Very, very stoked about that. There's a ton of other applications with this card as far as Fiend decks that it can make way better, but that's the basis of as far as how it applies to Lair specifically, in a simple note. And also just other basic things of once you have Lilith and Grave, being able to go Tour Guide into a Sangan or an Octhros, link into this to search either a level 8 level 8 Fiend or any hand trap or something, and then still be able to just reborn the Lilith and get in rotation again. This card will be an absolute staple, awesome card for Lair of Darkness. I cannot wait for this to drop. Can't wait for this set to drop because there's so much just from this one set that all can be kind of attributed to Lair. And I think the coolest thing is that Lair can be played in a myriad of different ways. There's Ties of the Brethren builds. I think you don't play Ties if you play the Bisted build, but I think Bisted has its own bonuses there. There's the Labyrinth builds. There's just the super heavy trap builds. There's really a lot of different routes you can go with it. And I think that's one of the most fun parts of it is that you could see 5 different Lair builds and you could be they're all solid. I think they all have legitimate legs to them. You just have to pick your personal preference and what works for you. So excited for this. Sorry if I rambled a little bit too long on this, but you guys know how I am with Lair. I just want to talk about Lair all the time. Very, very excited for this. Once Darkwing Blast drops, we are going to be in such a cool spot for Lair, and I hope it'll actually be able to perform at a respectable rogue level. And you can bet your ass I'll be trying my best to make it do so. So yeah. That's it for me here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not seen, or if you want to see more stuff from me. And let me know your thoughts down below. If you are a fan like me of Lair of Darkness, how do you feel about the future? Is there anything I missed that I didn't mention that could also be a nice bonus point for Lair and as far as new stuff that's coming? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on that. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.